everybody, it's Mom of Two, Wife of One, and if you are here for the first time, welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for finding me and for clicking and watching and hopefully being entertained and amused by little old me. So as the name suggests, I'm Mom of Two, Wife of One. I have two babies, I have one husband, and occasionally on my channel, I have a story time with my daughter. I do movie reviews with my son. Sometimes I give parenting tips or wife tips. And today, another thing I do on my channel is I review and recap Married at First Sight. We are on season 13, and this is episode 4. Now, if you've never seen this show, let me give a little synopsis. So basically, all of these people in a select city who are single, they fill out this long questionnaire online because they're looking to get married. They meet up with 3 experts, one who's a pastor, one who is a sexologist of some sort, and then one who is a psychologist, and they talk about past relationships, how they view relationships, how they view sex, why they want to get married, all that stuff. And then from those thousands of people, they narrow it down to about 100 people. Then they narrow that down to 10 people. And the 10 people that have left, they pair them up into 5 couples. They come to you and say, hey, we found you a match. You're getting married in 2 weeks. All you know about that person, for the most part, is their ring size. You don't get to know their name. You don't get to see a picture. You find all that out the day of the wedding. And then the show basically follows them as they narrow down to these 10 individuals, as they make the matches, as they get married, their wedding night, their honeymoon, and then them living together and merging their lives together. And that is the premise of the show. Now, we'll give a disclaimer. Well, not disclaimer, my personal opinion. This show obviously started a while ago. We're in season 13. I feel like the premise of the show is still a very valid one and still a good one. I think, though, that they've gotten away from the purpose of the show. The purpose originally was, let's find these people, let's put them in this experiment, and let's hope that they find love and they find their happily ever after, and they grow as individuals and they fall in love and get married in the end. That was the purpose. Now I feel like 60%, maybe 70%, that's still the reason why people still do the show. The other 30% is, let's find that character that people are going to love to hate. Let's find that couple that's just so filled with drama that people are going to have to tune in every single week to find out what did they do next. And that bothers me. That's not why I tuned into the show originally, but I understand you're trying to get more fans of the show. You're trying to get more advertisers, because obviously if people are saying that a lot more people watching the show, then the ad dollars are going to come because they're like, oh, now you have 20,000 more viewers. We need to have an ad during your show. I get it from a business standpoint completely. As a viewer and as a fan of the original concept of the show, I'm not really a fan of all of this unnecessary drama. And I can already tell the couple that they're going to focus the most on, which is Miralet and Gill. So we'll actually start with them. I think they're going to focus on them more because it seems like they are the couple that are the polar opposites. They did discover that they have in common the trauma of their fathers getting killed, which is the stories that they both told were just so tragic and so sad, and so I definitely feel for both of them when it comes to that. But, they say that most marriages end because of money or because of fidelity, I believe. But money is a huge reason why either people get divorced or people have constant arguments within a relationship. And so for them, they view money very, very differently. Miralet works really hard. She makes a very good living. She saves her money, but she likes to finer things in life. Gill is a firefighter, and he's a little more on the frugal side. But I think that you have to be more on the frugal side when you're not making as much money, right? Which isn't his fault, and it's not her fault. But putting them together, it almost makes it seem like they're putting this guy who's cheap with a woman who spends a lot of money with the hopes that they'll rub off on each other, meaning she will encourage him to spend more on himself and to treat himself a little more, and then maybe he'll encourage her not to spend as much money. But if neither one of them are looking for that or necessarily need that, then that seems like a moot point. But she's definitely being painted as this materialistic woman. Like, they went on their honeymoon this episode, and she's kind of complaining about the room. Like, I prefer the presidential suite. I don't know if you can do this. I don't really see a view. And And it painted her as this woman who's just, I don't say not satisfied, but not easy to please. And it's funny because she made a comment like, I think I'm very easy to please. And I think what she was really saying was, I'm very easy to please as long as people do what I ask them to do. Anybody's easy to please if they do what you want them to do. Duh. And so I won't even say that I dislike her. I think as a person, I think she's probably fine. I don't have the issue with her. I don't think she's the right fit for this show specifically, because the show is meant for you to learn to grow as a person, for you to be open and willing to look at your own flaws and your faults and figure out how you can be a better person, and for you to merge your life with somebody else's. And her thing is, I like my lifestyle the way it is. I just want someone to join me in this lifestyle. That's not really how marriage works, and it's definitely not how Married at First Sight works at all. So for them, I mean, that's the main thing that happens. That they went on their honeymoon. They both sat down with each other's families and friends, and just kind of, and it's something that they started doing a few seasons ago. They didn't do this in the first couple seasons of Married at First Sight, where the night after the wedding, each person will go have brunch with their new in-laws or their new spouse's friends, just to kind of get more information on them. Like, okay, well, how does this person deal with conflict, and what should I look out for, and blah blah blah. So it's supposed to be a chance for them to figure out more about the spouse that they just married 24 hours ago. But it's also supposed to give the family some one-on-one time with them, to either give them warning or to kind of feel them out. Like, hey, are you going to treat my son or my daughter well? Are you good enough for my son or daughter? What are your intentions? All that stuff. So, and I kind of like that they do that, because I think it's good to kind of get a glimpse of how the family and the friends are, because you also get to get a glimpse of how involved they're going to be in the marriage, and that's very, very key. But with Miralet and Gill, let me see, what did I write down about them? I mean, like I said, it wasn't really a lot. There was nothing, I don't know. There was nothing really interesting with them, but I do feel like the cameras are going to focus on them because they're just more of the opposite. And it's going to show a lot of her giving the stank face, a lot of him probably looking worried when she's spending too much money. He did make a comment that I actually like my wife. So I was like, oh, that's really sweet. And I also put my notes, I really like Gil. As a person, I like his personality. He seems very grounded. I think that even though both their fathers getting killed is obviously a bad thing and not a great thing you want to have in common, I think it does help a little bit, bond them a little tighter together. Like, oh, this person knows what I've gone through. They can kind of, encourage me when I'm feeling sad, or they, one thing I was curious about, when you lose your father in that way, and they were different ages. I think Miralet was an adult and Gil was 14 when their fathers were killed. But having that happen obviously impacts you because you're sad, but also it impacts your view on, for Gil, I feel like it impacts his view on what it means to be a man. And it impacts how you view relationships. It may impact you being able to trust in a relationship. So I just thought it was interesting they both shared that, and I wonder how those individual acts or those individual circumstances really impacted the way they look at relationships and how that's going to play out in their current relationships. That should be kind of interesting to see, because I know that the experts are really good at kind of digging deep and figuring out, oh, okay, you're this way because when you were a child this happened, and that normally happens later in the season. So it'll be really interesting to see how their father's passing impacts them as a husband and a wife. But other than that, I just didn't care. I mean, this episode I felt went pretty slow. They didn't give me anything really that I was like, like, oh, this is interesting, this is juicy. Nothing really interesting happened with them, but I don't think that they're going to make it. I don't think they were a good match at all to begin with. Bao and Johnny, I like them a lot. I like them as individuals a lot. I like that when Johnny was talking about his dad, if you guys watched the first episode, he's telling his family that he got matched with somebody on the show and that he's going to be on the show. And his father did not approve. His father didn't even want his voice to at all be mentioned in the show. He refuses to be a part of it, doesn't approve with this process. And Johnny was really impacted by that and was crying a lot. And he was like, even though my dad divorced my mom and we're not as close as I wanted to be, I still love him and his approval means a lot to me. And so he finally broke down and told Bao all of this. And Bao was like, well, you know what? He'll come around. I'll do whatever I need to do. If I need to talk Vietnamese to him, I will. I'll dress up. He's going to be fine. And I know that's exactly what Johnny needed to hear. And one thing I did like is when they're having this discussion, a very difficult discussion for Johnny, that they were holding hands. That's a big deal because we discussed before in an earlier episode of Mom's Wife 1 on my channel that Johnny is a physical touch person. That's his love language. So the fact that Bao is not a physical touch person, but while they're having this discussion, she allowed him to hold her hands, I think is a really big deal. Because for people who are physical touch people, it's not just about sex, like some people assume. If physical touch is your love language, that means that you feel loved when a person comforts you in some way, whether it's holding your hand, it's rubbing your back, it's scratching your scalp, it's having sex, it's kissing, it's all those kinds of things, all that wrapped in one. So the fact that they did that and Bao looked comfortable doing it, I thought was a really big for him, and it's something he definitely needed in that moment. And so, and I also love that Bao is the one who has an Excel spreadsheet for everything. So even when she was packing for the honeymoon, she's like, "Where's my spreadsheet?" And he's like, "What do you mean?" "Well, I have a spreadsheet when it comes to packing, because this way I can figure out what I'm going to wear each day. And then, of course, they got to have an outfit for morning and at night. And so my spreadsheet shows me my shirts and my pants and my jumpsuits or whatever, so I can figure this out and figure that out." And she showed it to him, and I just thought it was really funny because I'm very organized. I'm not that bad though, and it makes me feel good that, I could be worse than I am. Okay, because I definitely for sure have at least a to-do list of what I need to pack, and sometimes I may plan out an outfit sometimes, but I rarely do that, and I for darn sure don't use an Excel spreadsheet. So I was like, oh, Val's definitely a woman after my own heart, but I'm not at her level. So I just thought it was really funny to see that. And also, this is a personal question I have for you guys. You can answer in the comments. Whether you're married or not, how important is it to you that your spouse or your significant other, your partner, how important is it that their family like you? And I guess that probably is determined by how close your partner, boyfriend, husband, wife, whatever, how close they are to their family. That probably will indicate whether it's important that the family likes you or not. Because some men, at least for me, I'll talk about my situation. My husband was not overly concerned with that. My husband was also very good at compartmentalizing. It's like, okay, my wife and kids are here, and my cousins are here, and my coworkers are here, and the people I go bowling with are here. He's very good and intentional about kind of keeping everything in their own space and not really merging things together like that. So I don't think it was that important to him that his family liked me. And fortunately, they do, and I've never had issues with his immediate family. More of that maybe in a later video. Now I probably won't talk about that. But either way, it wasn't important to him. But I'm always curious, especially in this day and age, 2021, is it really that important anymore for a person's family to like you? So I just thought it was kind of an interesting thing to think about. And I also love the fact that Johnny's mom asked Bao to call her mom. I thought that was really, really sweet. And I liked that at one point when they got to the honeymoon, they're laying down. And Johnny, now mind you, honeymoon, this is the second day of marriage. This is the second day of them knowing each other. They've only known, well, backstory, they've known each other for like 10 years, but they've never been intimate with each other. So this is their second day of intimacy, of marriage. And I liked that even though it's just the second day, Johnny started asking sex questions. And not because he's trying necessarily to have sex with her, because he did say, I think we should wait. We get to know each other on this new level that we've never known each other before. So I'm not in a rush for that. But I think it's important to have conversations about it. So he asked her straight up, like, tell me something, not sexual necessarily, like your sexual position, but tell me something related to that, something that gets you there, that gets you going, or what's an indicator that you're ready to have sex, what's something that you like for me to do, or whatever, however he phrased it. But I like that he asked right away. He asked in a very polite way. And I like that she took her time and answered it. She's like, there have been times when you have kissed me in private that I've really enjoyed. And those kisses kind of indicate to me what kind of lover you would be. And I really enjoy that. And I was like, oh, okay. And I just like the fact that it was a very frank conversation. There was no embarrassment behind it. Because in past seasons, the husband will bring that up. And will ask the wife, like, hey, so tell me something that you like for me to do or that you don't want for me to do. And it can be awkward, especially with someone you don't know that well. But it's very key because there's some married couples who don't have that kind of conversation. And they just assume, okay, well, I've been doing this for this amount of years. I'm assuming you still like it. But things change. What I liked 10, 20 years ago when we first started dating or having sex may not be what I like now after kids, after being older and all that stuff. So it's important to constantly have those conversations. And I love that Johnny wasn't afraid to ask and that Bao wasn't afraid to answer. And I really like Johnny as a person. He's very silly. He's serious, but he has a very great silly side because she asked him, like, well, what about you? What's something sexual that you don't like? And he's like, I mean, I'm pretty vanilla when it comes to sex. Like, I don't do anal. I think anal's yuck. That's where poop comes out of. I was like, you know what? I am here for that, Johnny. Again, that's TMI. I don't care. And I won't, delve into that subject any further. But I love the fact that they had that conversation, and so far they're the only couple, at least on camera, that has had that conversation. So I thought that was really cool. So I really like that. The next couple, Michaela and Zach. Now, I like Michaela and Zach. I think that they are a very attractive couple. I like that she is already falling into the role of wife. And what I mean is just scratching his scalp. When he woke up in the morning, they're talking. She was like wiping something off his eye. She was like helping like prepare his breakfast, make sure that was straight. So I like that she's already falling into that role so early of catering to him, not in a way where she's neglecting herself by any means, but just going out of her way to touch him, to snuggle, to cuddle. Even the first night of marriage, them spooning together, that doesn't happen with most of these couples because, again, you know, yes, you are married, but I've only known you less than 24 hours. So not everybody's comfortable with that. Some people on this show, when they go to bed that first night, they create a barrier with pillows in the middle so that they're not touching each other because they're just that uncomfortable sleeping next to a stranger. So I like the fact that they kind of got into this thing very naturally, very easily. They have had sex. They're the first couple who have had sex. It looked like they had sex the second night of marriage. So it's like, okay, I feel like, you know, duh, I knew it was coming because they are very attracted to each other and they get along really well. So she met with all of his family, and one thing that they said to her, oh, backtrack. At the wedding, her father was killed by a drunk driver years ago, and she's, you know, she and her sisters are still really feeling it and, you know, still mourning. And at the wedding, you know, they normally have the father-daughter dance. Now, what I don't get is, if you already know this, even though this is Married at First Sight and this wedding was thrown together in 2 weeks, it's not that hard to tell the DJ, hey, her dad died, so we're not doing the father-daughter dance. So I've seen this on a couple seasons where the father either died or is not at the wedding, but they still will announce it like, okay, father-daughter to the floor. And it's like, nobody told y'all all these seasons and nobody thought, let's tell the DJ this. So I thought that was kind of weird. And I liked that his father asked her to dance. I thought that was super, super sweet. And I really feel like Zach comes from a great family. It seems like his family, they really rally around each other. They are like very welcoming and loving. They love Zach and they're protective of him, but they have an open mind when it comes to Michaela. I really like the energy of his family. And I think I'm so adamant about that because the family from the black man from last season was not a fan of. So I like this interpretation of a black family for this season. I really like all of them together. And I like Zach as a person, but I love how protective they are. And one thing I realized last night is that Zach is the baby of the family and Michaela is the baby of her family. And I think, now me not being the baby of the family, when you're the baby of the family, you have a lot of people who are protective over you. You also have a sense sometimes of being a little spoiled and used to getting your way. And I think both of them may have that. And if that's the case, that's going to cause some conflicts in the future, as you may have seen from previews, of people used to getting their way and not used to somebody telling them no. So having two people together like that are used to getting their way, if you guys want two different things, that's going to cause some issues in the relationship. So we'll see how that goes. But I like the conversations that they had with each other and that they had with the family. And one thing I did put on here is, you know, in the previews, they've shown everybody kind of fighting with each other, stomping off, driving off, or whatever, which happens every single season. But in my notes, I said, now I see why they have them look back at their weddings during their 1 month anniversary. So when they hit the 1 month mark, they're married for 8 weeks before they decide they want to stay married or get divorced. But at the 1 month mark, the experts send them their wedding video or wedding album and they get to look back on it. And at first I was like, this just happened a month ago. Of course they remember. But looking back at the weddings and the wedding night and even them leaving for the honeymoon, everybody is happy and they're hopeful and they're smitten and they're laughing and they're kissing and they're just so excited. And sometimes it is important to remember how you felt that day, because when the 1 month comes around, that's when they've already come back from the honeymoon. They've already started merging their lives together. They've already had family and friends over. They've already been living with each other and having to get used to that. And that's when a lot of tensions start to rise, because now you're seeing habits that you didn't know existed, or you're getting used to sharing a space that you never had to share before, or whatever the situation is, that some things are kind of at their moment of being the most real and the most authentic when it comes to being a married couple. So I understand now why they send them that wedding video, to kind of get them to remember, hey, don't forget why you did this. Don't forget how you felt that first day. Hold on to that feeling of how you felt the first day, because even though you're pissed at this person now, the person you met that first day when you were so happy and excited, that's the same person that you're still married to. So remember those traits that you discovered then and focus on those now, and use that joy that you had and that hope that you had, use that to fuel you and inspire you and encourage you to work through whatever current issues you have now. So I understand now why they do that, and I do think that's a really good idea, especially for some of these couples, and you see some of the stuff that they're going to get into later. It's like, oh yeah, you need to remember why you like this person in the first place. But I did say that I like how comfortable they are with each other. And so this was my thing. He met with her three sisters, and they talked about how they're very overprotective of her, but they want him to, they're hoping that he'll be in that role of being protective of her as well, which is fine. I thought that's fine. What I didn't like, or what I hoped, is that they would talk to him about Hurricane K. Now, they mentioned the day of her wedding, when she's getting ready and getting dolled up and they're all getting their makeup and their hair done, they mentioned Hurricane K. That's what they sometimes call Michaela when she is, I don't want to say riled up, but I guess when she feels like something has been done wrong to her, that she is cursing people out, she's yelling, doing all that stuff. So they say it's a hurricane because she basically destroys everything in her path, and then at some point everything is calm and she may apologize or she may not, or whatever. And I wanted them to mention that to him. Zach, at least from the outside, doesn't seem like a person who responds well to being yelled at. It doesn't seem like he would yell back at you, but he seems more like the guy who will walk away. Like, I don't want to raise my voice. I wasn't taught to raise my voice to women. I'm just going to kind of, leave and remove myself from the situation. But they keep harping on the fact that Michaela's very stubborn. So I feel like it's going to be this situation. Michaela's going to be pissed about something, or Zach going to be pissed about something. He may say the wrong thing to her. She sets off. Now she's yelling, she's screaming. She's going to be following him around the house while he's trying to walk away from her. And eventually he's going to get in the car and drive away. And now she's going to be pissed off at him. How dare you leave, blah, 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 blah. I think that's the way it's going to be. And so I was thinking, if they had told him about Hurricane K, should they teach him how to handle her in those moments of her being high strung? Or should his job be to help her figure out a better way to communicate? I was thinking about that, because you don't necessarily want to change somebody, but if you know as the spouse that you don't respond well to somebody yelling at you, you don't respond well to somebody cursing you out, you don't respond well to somebody talking down to you. If you already know that, and you know that's not how you're going to receive the information, but this person, this is how they are and what they're used to doing, I feel like as the spouse, it's your job to communicate to this person who does not know you that well that, hey, I understand this is how you are, but I don't receive information that way. In the future, can you try to talk to me like this? Or in the future, can we go to our separate corners and calm down and then come back and discuss this rationally? I don't know. I'm trying to think, if I was like her sister, what would I tell him? I feel like I would definitely warn him about Hurricane K, but I feel like, again, because she's the baby of the family, they just kind of accepted that part of her and they're used to it. But as a spouse, it's like, okay, yeah, this is a part of you and I get that. However, if I don't respond well to that, we got to figure out a better way to solve our issues, a better way to have this argument or whatever. And so I want to believe that if I was Michaela's sister, I would tell him about this part of her personality, and I would encourage him to talk things out with her calmly, rationally, and explain to her how he feels when she comes at him that way. Because at some point, we're going to see Hurricane K, because we saw it in the previews. But yes, I was just thinking about that, how the best way to kind of approach that situation, and that's what I would hope would take. And also, to the preview just from the next episode next week, and it already looks like they're having issues, and it's like, dang, it's been 3 days. What are y'all fighting about now? But, we'll see. So Brett and Ryan is an introvert. He just seems really weird to me, but I guess it's because he's an introvert. He seems awkward. but also know the editors like to play with us. They like to construct the video so that it looks kind of awkward and uncomfortable. They like to have this specific kind of music playing so that you think it's awkward, so it makes it seem like they've had this long pause in conversation for like 10 minutes and it could have just been 20 seconds. Like, so you never really know what's going on. But I don't really see what I don't really see what he and Brett have in common yet. And I didn't like that when he met with her family, they're like, "Oh, do you have any questions for us?" And he was like, "No, no, I don't." And it had me thinking, if I'm in that situation, what kind of questions would I ask? And I feel like for the most part, they ask, is there anything I should know? If we get into an argument, how does she respond to that? How should I react to her? How is the best way for me to get to know her better? Should I ask a bunch of questions? Should I let her lead the conversation? Like, I feel like that's the perfect time because your family and friends know you very well, obviously. They know what kind of sets you off. They know what puts you at ease, and you may know that yourself, but you may not be able to articulate it in the way that your family and friends may be able to. So I thought it was weird that he didn't ask anything. And I don't know if he didn't ask anything because he genuinely didn't have any questions or because he's just really shy. But it's like, you gotta ask something. Like in any kind of interview or, space like that, you're supposed to at least be like, "Hey, I don't have any questions, but these are things I want you to know about me. Now, how do you think that these aspects of my personality are going to line up with your daughters?" I feel like I would ask questions like that. So I was kind of disappointed that he did not. And then one thing I like that she said is that she wants to be accepted for who she is and plans to be 100% authentic all the time. I like Brett as a person. I think Brett is very genuine. She seems very much like, what you see is what you get. This is it. This is me. Not apologizing for it. But she seems really nice and sweet as well. So I actually really like Brett as a person. I don't know about Ryan. He doesn't impress me. He kind of bores me. Not impressive. I don't really know what they have in common. I hope that, because people's personalities tend to come out more during the honeymoon than the wedding. The wedding, you're still hyped up with anxiety over meeting this person, and then you meet them, and immediately you're taking pictures, and you're having your first dance, and you have all these people around you. Then you have the wedding night, which is kind of awkward because the cameras are still there, and you're laying down with somebody you don't know. Then the next day, you're meeting up with their in-laws that you barely talked to the night before, so now you're almost facing the firing squad. So it's a lot of anxiety and a lot of like really hyped up emotions. The honeymoon is when you get a chance to relax a little bit. You get to have your feet in the sand, go in the water, do these adventures. I feel like that's when people's guards come down a little bit and you get to see more aspects of their actual personality. So my hope is that during the honeymoon, we'll see more of Ryan's personality. He won't be so stiff and so quiet. We'll see him being adventurous or being silly or being romantic. That's my hope, because I want that for Brett and I want that for him too. But again, we haven't really seen that just yet. Even though it's only been a few episodes, it's like he's boring to me. So I'm hoping that we'll get to see that a little bit more on the honeymoon. And then last is Rachel and Jose. One thing I like about Jose, I like that he seemed, just like Michaela, he seems to have really fallen into his role already of, I'm married. For some of these couples from past seasons, they still were so weird saying my wife and my husband that they would just say, "Oh, this is my stranger," or "This is still a stranger," or "This is my person." But saying my husband, my wife just didn't flow off the tongue for them right away. And I love that immediately with 24 hours, he's like, "This is my wife," or he's calling her honey. And they seem to kiss a lot, but the kissing doesn't really have any passion. At least when I'm looking at it, it's like, I guess it's more like I'm kissing you because you're my wife, not like I'm kissing you because I'm just lusting after you. So, and also, a lot of times when he kisses her, like if they're laying facing each other in the bed, a lot of times when he kisses her, he puts his hand on her neck to kiss her. For me, I hate when somebody has their hand on my neck because I feel like you are too close to being able to strangle me. Now, granted, I haven't done anything to anybody, at least as far as I know, to get strangled or to warrant somebody even putting pressure on my neck in that way. And I don't know why my mind goes there, but it makes me instantly uncomfortable. And he does that a lot to her. But he ain't my husband, so it doesn't matter. But it's just a note that I made that was like, I don't like that. Yeah, and then like he met with her mom and I think sister, and they just said, "Oh, you gotta make sure you communicate." And she's messy because she's focused on school, and it's like, okay, they didn't really tell him anything big. That was kind of like, kind of whatever. both of them are already thinking about what their first argument is going to be about, which I don't think is a healthy thing to do. I guess they're both like, oh, things are going so well. I can't imagine what we would ever argue about, because I'm just, what do you think it would be? I don't know, actually, because things are just going so perfectly. It's like, I just don't think that's something to dwell on, you know. Enjoy the moment. Obviously, they both know an argument is going to come at some point, probably several times during this season, because that's just what happens when you're getting to know somebody, and sometimes you're not able to communicate things in a way that they understand or that they receive, or sometimes you may get on a nerve that you weren't aware of because you're still learning this person. So it's going to happen, but I don't think it's necessary to really dwell on what we're going to argue about. I thought it was kind of a dumb thing to focus on, really. His family told her that he's very structured. He watches his finances. She was like, I actually want someone to help me with that. So, I mean, I guess that's a good thing. I like the fact that he told her, you know, they talk about my finances in kind of the laughing way, but I focus on my finances because I wanted to make sure that I had things paid off, that I didn't have any debt, because I didn't want to get married and bring that debt with me, and then my wife has to take that on. I wanted to make sure I was free and clear, so that way when I'm married, she and I can do our own thing and there's nothing holding us back. I was like, okay, I like that. I like that, and I can appreciate that. And yes, I mean, that's pretty much it. They went to the Florida Keys for their honeymoon, and that was pretty much what happened last night. It really wasn't anything terribly exciting. I feel like, I don't remember my predictions were. I still don't think Miralet and Gill are going to make it. Jose and Rachel, I think that, I don't know. Let's just say they'll make it. I don't know. Brett and Ryan, I'm going to say no. Bao and Johnny, I want to say yes. Michaela and Kay, I hope. Michaela and Zach, I hope they're going to make it. I really like them as a couple. I think they both really want this. You can tell they both really want to be married. And I feel like that's the first step. If both people actually genuinely want to be here, that normally is the very first step to figuring out, okay, how can we make this work? So I'm hoping that they'll figure that out. But yeah, that's my review and recap of Married at First Sight, Season 13, Episode 4. I will see you guys next week for Episode 5. Please definitely comment below. I'd love to talk to you guys about the show. Was there anything that I missed that you want to talk about? Do you have different predictions than I do? What are some things that you want me to discuss maybe in the next video? Or if you were in the situation of these family and friends, what are some questions that you would have asked the new spouses? I'm very curious about that, because I was thinking about that too. From the perspective of a new wife coming into that situation, what questions I would ask my new in-laws. And then if I am the parent in that situation and my son is doing the show, what kind of questions would I have for my new daughter-in-law? And I don't know. But if you guys have any ideas, again, discussions, put them down below. Click the notification bell so you don't miss all of my videos that I post. Comment, subscribe, like, share, all that good stuff. And I'll see you guys next week. Peace.